The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle, where you can access your full potential right now. Finally break free from destructive habits. That dream life, if you want it, you can have it. This is where you transform your health, mind, business, and relationships. Or do nothing and keep your life the way it is. But if you're ready for change, you're in the right place. This is where you're gonna learn how to live a habit-based lifestyle. You are tuning in to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle. Let's go.
Hey, what's up, guys? Good morning. It is the Habit-Based Lifestyle show, and it is Jesse and
Caleb.
there
Caleb.
we go.
I was wondering if you forgot my name.
No, I was waiting to segment you in, man. We've done enough shows at this point to where
Normally you intro me, so I thought you were gonna say my name. It's
yeah, I forgot your name.
That's what it was.
All right, man. So what's been going on with you the last week?
This past week, man. I've been super wonky, actually. Been waking up earlier for the past 2 weeks at 5 a.m., which I normally don't do. I normally wake up at 6:30, and then I got super ambitious. So I'm like, oh man, I'm bored. I'm gonna wake up at 5 a.m. instead of 6:30. I was doing that for the past 2 weeks. And now this week I am completely burnt out. I think it's really safe to say I'm yeah, that didn't work out so well. So that's what's been going on this week. Still working out, still doing all that jazz. But now my body clock is just off. So
Well, we also did have the time change a couple weeks ago. So that could be part of the reason too. And you also have a girlfriend for the last few weeks. So could be starting to catch up with you now.
Okay. Well, yeah, let's just blame it on those reasons. But I think it's definitely the time change with the girl. But it's Lifestyle Friday. This is what we're talking about. You know what I mean? We're talking about morning routines, girls, and, life, right?
Yeah. So I wanted to come on today and really get into bringing faith into your lifestyle, and even bringing it into our goals that we set on a day-to-day basis. One of the things that I see a lot of times is people, they say they have faith, but in reality, when you start talking to them about their goals, when you start talking to them about what they want in their life, it may not necessarily be showing up. And, yesterday I had the pleasure of jumping on a call and, talking, and this person came on and they were like, hey, how do you manifest, the things that you want in your life? And it really made me start thinking about hey, people think manifesting is from our head. And so we get kind of stuck there. It's hey, why can't I manifest things? It's well, you're putting it all in your head. And part of the problem with putting it in your head is it doesn't actually move you forward. We just kind of sit there and contemplate it and think about it all day long, but it doesn't really get us closer to faith, to closer to what we want. And so that's really where I want to start today. Yeah.
I've heard this too. And I've seen people try to manifest things. Oh, manifestation, they're very woo woo wah wah. And I only say woo woo wah wah because it's in their head, but they don't do anything about it. Right. So they come to me and they tell me oh yeah, I'm trying to manifest this. I'm trying to manifest that. And then I see them the next day and they're doing the same thing, or see them the next week and they're doing the same thing and they don't get anything different. And I was listening to your that podcast that you're doing on Fireside. I don't know if it was a podcast, but your interview, and you're talking about how, mindset isn't everything, right? Just how manifesting in your head isn't everything to get results, right?
Right. And, I wanted to kind of give people a different perspective on, mindset or faith, or kind of what I call is faith set. What is your faith set at? versus like, what is your mind set at? And when you start thinking of things in a different way, is like, hey, what is my mind set at when we're talking about, faith? Or what is my faith really set at when we're talking about goals, or we're talking about, maybe my physical health, my mental health, my relationships, my business? Is my faith really set in place? Because if it's not, that may be one key factor, like why you're not hitting your goals. That may be one key factor why you don't have the lifestyle that you actually want.
Yeah, I like to think about it like, the mindset is the way you think about it, right? And the faith piece is like what brings the mindset into like reality, right? Taking that step or taking that leap through faith to start attacking and getting towards what you want. Like I was totally that guy. Again, I'm gonna keep referencing like before I met you, because there's like a Caleb before habit-based lifestyle and there's a Caleb post habit-based lifestyle. But before I joined habit-based lifestyle and working with you so closely, I was like, mindset is everything. And like I was like, yeah, manifesting, like I believed in that. And I mean, I still do, but everything was like in my head, my weight, my fitness goals were in my head. My relationship goals were in my head. Everything was in my head, and I had no fruit to show for it because I didn't have the faith that drew me out of my own head into real life to put like what I wanted for my life into, I guess, practice.
Right. I think one thing is like we set goals in our life from our mind and not our faith. And so like we can set them in our mind, like, hey, yeah, I know what I want. We can say that, we can, really truly believe it. I believe we really, most people know what they want. What gets confusing is like acting as if we already have what we want. And that to me is really the secret of faith is the secret of creation, if you think about it. And so it's about imagining the thing we cannot see or that we may not have in our possession, or that thing we desire to be, but we cannot see, and still acting as if we already are that person or we already have what we want. And that's really about, the thing that we desire, being able to call it, forward. And this is really like something I've been really good at, was like being able to imagine the thing that I want using my imagination, but being able to call that into existence and living from that place versus acting as if I already have what I want versus waiting to act like it until, I have it.
Yeah.
The best analogy I could say is like, listen, let's say this was $100, right?
Okay. You're holding a pen up,
but we see it, right? And so we actually believe it. Okay. And that's not faith, right? That's like, no, it's right here. But what faith is saying, well, listen, here's the $100. Do you see it? And most people would say, no, well, it's not there. And so if I can't see it, then what would make me, see this as a vision or as like, you want to say manifesting it, is I have to be able to see it, even though it's physically not in my hand. And until you can envision that and put your mind in the place to see things which may not be as if they are, right? It's the thing I desire, but I don't necessarily have to see it to desire it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so if I can start to envision this $100 in my hand, eventually what's going to happen?
You're going to start creating cash.
I'm going to start creating what's my vision of, and so there's no faith right here, right? Because I have that pen in my hand that represents $100. This takes faith to see it or to envision it and not actually physically have it. And that's really the difference of it. So when we set goals, a lot of us want to set goals. Hey, I want to make $20,000. And you see it off in the distance, or you maybe are like, hey, I want to make this. But like after you set the goal, you set it down, and then all you do is think about the goal for the next 90 days, 100 days, whatever it is, versus no, now I need to have a vision of the $20,000. I need to start living from that place that I already have it today in my possession versus waiting for 90 days until I actually do have it.
I think an example, like just to relate this to something more tangible to like my life, is when I moved down here to San Clemente, I didn't really have any community, right? I had you, I knew your family, and I knew some other people, but that was about it. I felt like I was completely alone, especially in COVID, right? And I was really praying and I was asking God, like, please show me a community, right? Show me the community that you want. And I was like literally praying for this community. And over time, slowly, I started getting introduced to your church, your home church at the time. And as I started going, I then started to see like the community that was literally just waiting for me. I started telling myself even before I was there that like I am a community creator, like I am a community builder. Like that's what my dad built me to be. That's what I know I can do, is like I build communities of people. You know what I mean? So once I actually got to that church and I saw your family and I saw like that church family, it was super easy for me to like find a community within that community, or find that community as a community that was waiting for me, or the community that I knew I could step into. You know, I had to step into faith and realize that I already had a community. I just had to realize that I just had to open my eyes and take the next step into walking into that community versus just like waiting, like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? I don't have any friends. Instead of sitting there like, oh my gosh, I need friends. I need this. I need that. Instead, I was like, no, it's already out there. I just have to go find it. I just have to go get it. Right.
Right. So, you know, and think about like what you did is you began to envision yourself with friends. You began to envision yourself with, you know, these people that you desired. And so really what you did is you began to turn the invisible into the visible.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay. And when we begin to do that and feel that, this is the secret of really bringing that forward into existence. And so that's really what a goal is, right? It's taking the invisible, the thing we don't have or don't see, and turning it into the visible. But I think people never actually look at their goals that way. They think like, oh, when I get here. So think about it this way. Okay. If my goal was to lose 20 pounds, right now, that is not a visible goal. But if I can see myself and live from that place today of being 20 pounds lighter, like how would I show up different today? You know, would I, you know, be more active? Would I go buy, you know, maybe, you know, a 34 jeans versus maybe wearing a 36? Would I put the number that I wanted to be on the scale so that I started to see and started to live from the place I already wanted to be? Right. And so that's where we get stuck, is like, you know, what would I change on a day-to-day basis if I was already that I want to be? And as you start asking yourself that, you show up in a completely different way, right? You know, if I was 20 pounds lighter, you know, what would I eat different? What would I be more active? What are like things I would do differently on a day-to-day basis? And what kind of clothes would I wear? And just start changing those. And so we have to get to a place where we can start showing up differently for the thing that we desire to be, even if it's not visible.
Yeah, that's a huge point, because a lot of people, including myself too, when we set goals, we look at it from the place that we're at now. And one, that's why a lot of people set small goals. And two, that's why people don't even reach their goals, is because they're looking at the accomplishment or the medal that they get when they hit that goal as the person they are now versus the person that already has it or the person that's going to go get it. I think another example would be, I guess, like me in a relationship, in like a longer term relationship. I just stopped living from a place of like, I have to go like be this person, or I have to go find a girl, right? Instead, I started like, okay, I already am, you know, boyfriend material, or I already am dateable material. right? Instead of coming from a place like, oh, I have to become somebody who's dateable. No, I already am like somebody who's worthy of dating, right? So what did I have to do? I had to change a lot of things, and you helped me out with this. One thing I had to do was I had to like put my attention on girls. Like girls weren't a huge priority for me, like work was more a priority than actually getting girls. And you were like, you exposed that in me. And I was like, you're like, you got to go on dates first. I'm like, oh shoot, I actually have to go on dates. You know what I mean? So,
because if you were living from a place of already having a girlfriend or already having someone in a relationship, you would actually be going out on dates with that person. You wouldn't be at home, sitting there trying to manifest some
left and right,
Yeah, manifesting some girl on, right swipe.
Yeah, exactly. So these are super it may sound like super out there for people who can't wrap their head around putting yourself in the place of the already goal. So in the goal, like you already have what you want. So what's some like tangible things that people can do to like actively put themselves in that state of, okay, I already have this and I'm working from that place versus working from the place of, I don't have this yet and I'm not going to be until I have it.
So one thing you can do is like call the thing that's not seen. Okay. So the thing not seen is, like I said, maybe I want to lose 20 pounds. Maybe I want to make $20,000. Maybe, for you want this, new girlfriend, boyfriend, or maybe you want your spouse a different way. Like it's always a lot of times like in marriage, it's easy to be like, well, I want my spouse to be this way, but it's like, okay, well, how would I show up differently if they were already that way? And so, it's like we have to get into a place of calling the thing not seen, assume the feeling of what it would feel like to already be that or already have that, and then to live from that place. The cool thing about you and I and our life is our purpose in life is to create, like to be creators, right?
Yeah.
And so we can actually create our own reality, which can be good and which can be bad, right? But we have to use our imagination to do that. And one thing that I see a lot of times is people don't set goals from their imagination. They set goals from just like, hey, a nice to have, right?
Yeah.
But faith is calling those things which be not as if they are. So the things that we cannot see, we're actually pulling into existence and saying, listen, I'm living from the place today that I already have what I want. And I begin to do that every single day for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I spend going through my goals, calling those things which be not as if they are. And so walking by faith, not by sight. So I don't have to necessarily see it to believe it. That's what faith is, right? And so I go through kind of a little exercise like, hey, who would I have to be to already have what I say I want? Okay. What are the beliefs and identity that I would need to shift? What would I have to do different on a day-to-day basis? Okay. So what are things that I would have to do completely different? And then what would it feel like to already have what I say I want? And I would go through and make a list of feelings and emotions from this place. And so those are really the three questions that I would go through every single day to begin living from that place. Okay. And that's the power in this. So rather than saying, well, listen, I have a goal that I'm going to get to in 90 days, I can start living from it as if I already have it today. And I don't have to wait for 90 days.
Wow. Yeah, that's super powerful. So if you are listening and you're wanting a result in your life, and you don't quite know how to get there, you think it's still impossible, re-listen to that, rewind and listen back to what Jesse said. One, you have to call it out, right? You have to call out what you actually want, right? And what's the second step after you call it out?
What would I have to do, differently? So what would you do differently if you already have what you say you wanted?
Okay. So we have to call it out. And the second thing, we have to figure out, okay, what do I have to do differently now that I already have this? Now that I already have this result, what do I have to do differently to obtain something like this, right?
Yeah. Or how would I show up differently?
How would I
in
show up
day-to-day
for the
life.
day to
And,
day?
you know, I use the analogy of like, hey, if I had already lost 20 pounds, like what would I do differently? You know, would I go out and exercise, you know, more? Would I go out and buy smaller size clothes? Would I go out and go on a vacation? Like, so all those things are lining up and pulling me into what I already have, what I already say I want.
Mm. And then what's the third thing?
What would it feel like to already have it? So feeling is really the secret. If I can feel that I already have what I want, if I can already emotionally get myself in that place and hold it as long as possible, that pushes me to this place of my body. My body doesn't know the difference of a present feeling or a present emotion or a past emotion or feeling. It just attaches to whatever that is. And so putting my
Wow.
feelings in the right place and putting my emotions in the right place gets me in alignment with that.
That's huge. That piece that you just said, I haven't heard that before, but it's so true. Is that like we can't really like put a timeline on those feelings that we've had either from the past or from the future, like the anxiety from the future. And I was listening to one of our clients' live videos yesterday, and he was saying something very similar. Like the further the past the trauma is, the harder it's going to break, and that trauma stays with us, and we don't know like it stays with us, even though it's like years and later from when that trauma happened, it's still there because we don't know what the timeline is, right? Which is why it's so important when we're wanting to, you know, manifest or we're wanting to set goals to actually take ourselves and put ourselves forward in that timeline as if we already have it, right?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing is like just really understanding like what would it feel like to already have lost 20 pounds? What would it feel like to already have made $20,000? What would your emotions be from this place? What would your feelings be? Being able to call those into existence today, or like, I mean, I can remember doing this in high school. It's like envisioning myself scoring, you know, touchdowns, envisioning myself, you know, in a boxing match before it happened, already having my hand raised or already, you know, being able to see myself in the end zone before the game even happened. And that was something that I really felt like separated me as an athlete, is I could always envision myself doing something before it actually had happened and pull that into existence and really be able to live from that place.
Yeah. Wow. So we uncovered a lot. Or not even a lot, just a lot around this subject. So guys, if you are listening to this live or on the replay, I would love to hear what is the one goal, what is the one thing that you're wanting to create in your life, and then start thinking about, right? Who do you have to become, or who would you be if you already had that? What would you have to do differently, right, in your life on the day to day to obtain that goal? And then what would it feel like to already have it, right? That's a whole game plan from being to actually doing and to feeling, right? So, Jesse, other than that, is there anything else that people could do? Anything else that you want to say around this topic before we go?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing with goals, right? You know, our goals have to be something. So like we can sit there and manifest our goals, but if we don't learn to live from already, you know, having this invisible goal, and it will never become visible. And so you can write a goal, you can do all these things, you know, but if you don't learn how to make an invisible goal visible, then you're going to, you know, you're rarely going to accomplish what you say you actually want. And I think that's the biggest thing in this is like when you actually set a goal, you know, whether it's in business, whether it's in your marriage, whether it's in your physical health or your even your spiritual health, you know, you have to be able to call the invisible and feel it and live from that place to make it visible. If you're waiting, hey, I'll live here once I've made the $20,000 or once I've lost the 20 pounds, then I'll book my vacation. I'll do all those things. faith is really about trust, man. And if I truly trust where I'm going, I might as well start living from the place today versus waiting until I've already gotten there, because that's really not trust, right? And so as you think about faith, faith is the ultimate trust, and so there's no better way to trust than to actually imagine saying, like, listen, I'm going to put my blindfold on and I'm just going to live from the place that I already have and trust that I already have what I want and live from there. And now that brings, when I take the blindfold off, the thing's already there in front of me. Because if I can't see it with the blindfold, I'm definitely not going to be able to see it in plain sight.
Yeah, that's true. I remember all the times I've had a game plan, right? I've written a game plan for everything I've wanted. I'm going to do this every day. I'm going to do this, the most micro detailed game plan, about my fitness. And I give up week 2 because I'm like, yeah, I'm really far from my goal. And now, like, since joining Habit-Based Lifestyle, I've been more consistent working out every single day without having to change anything but my faith set, right? Like you said, like, I already am that athlete that I want to be. So what does an athlete do? He works out every day. He stretches like I never stretched before, right? He does all these things. He learns new things that I've never learned before. But that's because I'm working from a place that I already am an athlete. I already am this person that I want to be in the gym. So what does this guy do? He does all the things that I'm doing now that I've never done before, even with a game plan from beginning to end, So
Right.
You can have the game plan, you can have everything written down, but if you don't have the faith set, it's going to be really, really hard. The struggles are going to be real, like every single day, if you don't take that leap of faith and if you don't work from that strong faith set.
And, if you're listening to this, like, what is your faith set at inside of your, physical health? Is it set in faith, or is it set in your mind? Is your business set in your faith or just in your mind? Is your, marriage, your relationship set in faith, or is it just in your mind? How do you know? Well, in our mind means that we're still waiting on that thing to happen. In our faith, we're trusting that it already has happened and living from that place. All right. So that's it for today, guys. Monday, we have a special episode now. We're going to be doing Q&As where we are going to be talking about very specific things inside of our program, inside of Habit-Based Lifestyle, that can actually help you move forward. We already got a show lined up for Monday. So make sure you join in on that.
All right. Until then, we'll see you guys next Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
All right. Take care.
Peace.
The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse Ewing.